Dave, I'm glad to have you with us today. So tell us a little bit about your background and what y'all do at Drift.
So my background, man, I don't even know where to start. I love marketing. I do marketing at Drift. VP of Marketing, been here for 3-ish years, right since the beginning of the company. And the way that I talk about Drift is Drift connects you now with the people who are ready to buy now, which is a big change from how traditional marketing typically works, where most of the traditional marketing and sales systems were kind of built for later. Go to my website, fill out this form, and somebody on the team is going to follow up with you later. But there's just been a huge shift in the way that we all behave and communicate online, and the now is more important than ever. I think about walking outside of this building. If I called a Lyft on my phone, the driver would be there in about 1 to 2 minutes, and that's what we expect from everything, except in the B2B world, where the rules for some reason don't apply to how we actually all do things in real life.
Right.
So our mission at Drift is really to transform the way that businesses buy from businesses, and the way that we do that is through conversational marketing.
Well, that's awesome. And so that sets us up, actually. So you have this new book coming out. And
you got a copy. Hold on. Wait, pull that up again. I got to take a screenshot.
Do a screenshot right here.
You got one of the contraband. Love it. Yeah, we do. You got an early copy.
Dude, I have highlights all over this book. And so I wanted to talk about it. This new book's coming out. When's the release date? I know it's soon. And what motivated you to write the book? And why now?
Release date's January 30th. You can pre-order it everywhere. I don't know when you're going to run this. Pre-order it everywhere until then, but it'll be in stores on the 30th. And the reason we wrote the book is because, we've just heard so much about the power of, we felt it firsthand. Like we use conversational marketing and Drift to run our whole business. And we've become one of the fastest growing companies all time in this industry. And it's not because we have some secret, but our secret has been we've used our own product and really made conversations the center of our business. And so as we created this category of conversational marketing and started to educate more people about it, like late last year, we were like, you know what? It's time to write the book. We've wanted to write a book. We had enough stuff to say and enough, case studies and examples and methodologies and playbooks and blueprints and all that stuff. And so, we said, let's make 2019 the year that we write the book and really, do the best job we can trying to help educate the future of marketing and sales on this next wave.
Well, it's really well done. And you were talking about how marketers need to rethink the way they're doing content and lead generation right now. And why is that?
Because content's a commodity, right? Like everybody has a podcast, everybody has a blog, everybody's doing video, everybody's on social media. Like content, 5-10 years ago, you could be like, what makes us unique? We are a B2B company. We have a blog. And people are like, what? Blogging? No way. Where today, all that stuff is a commodity. And, nobody is like on their commute. Nobody's going to be on their commute home tonight being like, you know what? I wish I had more of. I wish I had more content from a B2B brand. Like I need another B2B podcast. That's what I need. Right. And so there's got to be some, there's got to be some other way to compete. You can't just like write a 4-page PDF and slap a form in front of it and say, here you go, sales team, like here's some leads, because we're all kind of starting to ignore that, right? Like you and I don't, like I try to avoid filling out forms if I can. I hate talking on the phone. I never answer numbers that I don't know when they call me. I never reply to cold emails. And so something like had to give, and that's really the shift that we've seen in the market. And something that David, who I wrote this book with, he's a founder and CEO of Drift. Like the thing he talks about is he calls it like the shift from supply to demand, right? Mm-hmm. Customers have all the power today. 10 years ago, they didn't have any of the power. And so, if you sold like iced coffee, you could be the only person that sold iced coffee. And you could say, you know what, Brian, you're going to have to go through my process and you want one of my iced coffees? Great. Come back at 5:00 tonight. Call me on this number and I'll talk to you. Where now customers have all the power, right? By the time I'm ready to buy an iced coffee, I've already evaluated 4 or 5 other companies and I'm there in your store for a reason. And so it's all about adapting to the way that people behave and want to interact online. And really the concept that like information is free now. It's not something that can be a differentiator for you anymore.
Well, I was just thinking, you sell to marketers, right? And so naturally, we're kind of snarky bunch. We know how things are played. And so, it's about building trust with people as well. And I just wanted to hear the story. I was reading the book, but also I first heard about it, I think it was a year ago. This whole idea of the hashtag no forms movement. And
Yes.
so I wanted to hear the story. And for our readers who aren't familiar, what do you mean by no forms? And how did this happen in the first place?
What do I mean by no forms? That's a loaded question. So no forms is pretty, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's like a not rhetorical question, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? It means no forms. Because the whole process that I think marketers like got into this world of just abusing forms, right? Which is like, and I'm not preaching at anybody. Like I did this too, right? I remember one of the first things I did at Drift was I wanted to write an article about like the growth marketing influencers you should follow on Twitter. And so I made a Twitter list. I put it in a Google sheet, and I put a form behind it. And I said, hey, you want to get my list of 50 people to follow on Twitter? Put your email in here. Like that person's not a lead, right? There's no intent there. There's nothing interesting. That's just, I'm just gating this thing that's a commodity. And so we kind of started this whole no forms movement as a movement to challenge marketers to rethink how they do demand gen and how they capture leads. And so it started because about 3 years ago, David Cancel called me one morning on my way into work, and he's like, hey, you got a second? And I knew something was wrong because he never talks on the phone. He only texts. He only sends like IMs, Slack, WhatsApp, and text messages. So when he called me, I was like, I'm getting fired. Here we go. And so he called me, and he's like, and it was actually worse than getting fired. He was like, hey, I think we need to like get rid of all the lead forms on our website and our content. And I was like, okay, and do what? Like you pay, like I'm your first marketing person here. You pay me to generate leads, and you're taking away so what are you going to measure me on? And he's like, no, idiot. He didn't say that, but he's like, you're missing the point. Like if we're going to build a business around conversations, we need to lead the way, and we need to remove all of our forms and show businesses how to generate demand and drive sales without having to gate content and use lead forms. And so it was really like a pivotal moment for us, because it's like, all right, if we're going to build this thing, we got to live it firsthand.
Right.
And it was amazing because it wasn't just a marketing lesson, right? Like where I remember sitting next to two of our engineers, like we shared a little table together, and, they're like, okay, you got no forms. So what would you do here? And they're like, we're building this thing as we go on the spot. And it was super transformational for our business because we got to see how it worked firsthand. But then we got to go and educate the world, right? Because you say no forms to marketers, people are going to jump off the side of the boat. But for us, we were like, hold on, but let me show you how you would do a webinar registration without a form.
Yeah.
Let me show you how you would do this on your pricing page without a form. And so it gave us the opportunity to really go out there and educate the market. And the results since then have been amazing.
So if other marketers hearing this, and, it still steams and feels a bit like heresy, this idea of no forms, because every marketing automation provider has been built. We have tons of pop-ups. I have pop-ups on my blog and on my website. And, the question is, if I get rid of forms, then what do we do to capture leads? How do we engage people who stop by? And
so the short answer to that is to have a conversation, right? And that's really why Drift exists, is because the way you're going to capture leads now is by having an actual conversation with somebody. And I'll give you an example. Yeah. Sure, forms work. And in reality, the best advice I could give you is don't actually replace your forms. That's what you're going to do eventually after you're very successful with conversational marketing. But I want you to use conversational marketing in addition to your forms to start, right? Mm-hmm. And you're going to create a second net that's going to create this fast lane for the best people. Because if somebody has very high intent and they land on your website, they don't want to fill out a form. They want to get an answer now. And so Drift is going to create a fast lane for those best people. And so part one is like use Drift, or conversational marketing in addition to what you're already doing with forms. The other part of that is something we see all the time, right? How do you ask a question to a form? Yeah. You can't. You either fill it out or you don't, right? And so we see this happen all the time. Somebody will come in on our website, and our sales reps, when a named account comes to the website, they get a notification on their phone that says, hey, the VP of marketing at Dropbox is on the website right now.
Yep.
So we had a real example like this, and I'll just, make up the company. It was the CMO at Starbucks. She comes to the website and she says, oh, I was interested. And the bot says, hey, what brought you to Drift? And she says, well, I was interested in doing this, but it looks like you don't integrate with Slack. And so we're actually not a good fit. In that moment, the sales rep hops in and says, whoa, hold on a second. We do integrate with Slack. Can I show you? Here's a help doc. And then she's like, oh, interesting. Long story short, they have a 40-minute conversation. That turns into a demo. That deal closes a month later. How does that happen in the world of a form? It doesn't. Because the only opportunity is you either fill out the form or you don't, right? There is no conversation. And that's like the heart of conversational marketing. And now the next question people ask is, okay, so does that mean that I have to have my team sit there on chat waiting for new messages 24/7?
Right.
No, that's where we use bots and AI. We don't use bots to replace a human, and we don't want to put anybody out of a job, right? But we use bots to do that stuff so people can go on, with their day, right? We want bots to handle the digital paperwork, the stuff that was normally used for a form, right? Mm-hmm. A bot can ask the same questions that a form can ask in 2 seconds, right? Versus having to add the friction of somebody filling out a form. And so that way, as a marketer, I can do what I'm good at, which is getting people to talk about Drift and coming to our website. And a salesperson, all they have to do is take calls all day, right? That's the kind of relationship that conversational marketing can help.
What I think as I'm listening to you, I think of two ways of building a relationship, and one of which you've touched on, which is, if you get rid of forms, you're making things available to people and you're helping them. And so it's like altruism, reciprocal. You're giving something of value. And the two, it's through conversation. That's how we build relationships. And so I just wanted to ask, do you have any stories of some brands you could share that have applied this, and what have they found, and what's been their experience? Do you have any stories that you could share?
I mean, there's so many. I don't have one specific brand example because there's so many different ones. But I think that I've seen people use some creative ways that people use conversational marketing. Right?
Yeah.
We have a customer who uses it not to book sales meetings, but to sell tickets for their event. And so they have this high-end event. It's in March. Every person that lands on that website gets a, hey, Brian, nice to see you here. Did you know that right now we're running 2-for-1 tickets? Do you want to get one? Click yes. Okay, have a conversation to do event tickets. We have customers who use conversational marketing instead of forms to do webinar registration, and it makes webinar registration one click. So basically, you can double the number of conversions by simplifying the webinar registration. A lot of people actually use conversational marketing with content, which is, hey, you just finished reading this article about thing X. I bet you'd also like part 2, which is about thing Y. Do you want to go check that out? And the bot basically leads them to another piece of content. Or we do something like, look, it would be annoying if every time you visited our blog, a bot said, hey, do you want a demo of Drift? You're like, no, I just want to read this article. But what if on the 5th time you come to our blog, we then ask you for a demo, and the message is like, hey, all right, let's be honest. You kind of come here a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can I show you what the Drift product is all about, right? That's such a different ask. And it's just about being a little bit more patient and doing it when the time is right, as opposed to treating everybody. Imagine you had a store. We think about this a lot. If you had a brick and mortar store, and every person that walked in, you're like, hey, do you want to buy something? Do you want to buy something? Do you want to buy something now? Can I show you where to buy something? Like,
it's horrible.
Away. But that's how most B2B companies operate. And that's how they do business on the website. Yeah.
And we know that feels in the retail setting. We don't want to be there. We don't want to have that experience. And so this is something I wanted to ask you about, is how do you see empathy playing a role in conversational marketing? Because I think part of it is as you just talked about, we got to think about the experience of the customer. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Sorry, just was typing a note because I want to send you a specific. I have 2 or 3 companies. The problem is I don't know whose name we can. No,
that's fine. Yeah, go ahead and we can edit that, and then I'll put that in the show notes and the blog post for people.
Perfect. Yeah. Can you ask that question again?
Yeah. So I was going to ask, as I was listening to you share the experience of what it's like to be in a store, for example, and how that would feel. I was just going to ask, I mean, it leads me to think about empathy and how we think of the experience of the customer. And how do you see empathy powering or being a part of conversational marketing?
Totally. So I think of it as like, not to simplify this, but most B2B marketers, we treat the people on our website like they're dumb, right? Like they did no research. They just happened to stumble upon your website in the middle of the desert and go, huh, what does this cybersecurity company do, right? That doesn't happen that way. You are nobody is just browsing a B2B website for fun. You're not laying in bed on a Saturday morning going through B2B companies' websites. Like you are there. So step one is like, understand that the people who are there for a reason. They probably listen to your podcast. They watch your videos. They read your blog. They're on your email list. A friend told them. And so, and even if they did kind of stumble upon your website, like I said earlier, information is free now, right? Like if somebody comes to Drift website and they don't find what they want, guess what they're going to do? They're going to go over to Google and they're going to type Drift Alternative and they're going to find one of our competitors and they're going to go use their product, right? And so I think it is all about empathy. It's understanding who somebody is, why they're on your website. There's a good chance they don't have all the answers and they're here for a reason. Like I think of it, my wife and I bought a new car about a month ago, and it was amazing. We walked into the dealership and we had basically everything narrowed down. We just wanted to go for a test drive.
Yeah.
And you're nodding and everybody that you say this to is nodding because that's how we all behave as people, as humans. That's how we all buy. But then something happens in our brains when we go to our jobs in sales and marketing. We're like, all right, I got to make sure we don't tell them anything about this unless they talk to us, right? Or like the old sales rep tactic of like, oh, you want to know the price? Yeah, let's get on a call. No, just tell me the freaking price over email, right? Like that's not what the decision maker is going to be. And so it all starts with empathy and understanding that the goal should be to have a conversation with somebody who is in your store. If you change your mindset to that, and your store as a B2B company is your website. If I'm a B2B company, I want to have conversations with the people who are in my store, which is my website. If I had a store, I'd have somebody in front and somebody on the aisles being like, hey, let me know I'm here if you need anything. Let me know if you have any questions, right? That's how we think about conversational marketing as a layer for all this.
We're all customers, and yet at the same time, when you're a marketer, you're not your customer. And so you need to think about that experience as you just talked about. And from that place, how can you help them? And otherwise, we just have this bias. We love our product. We love our website so much. And, we really need to put the customer first is what I'm hearing you say.
Totally. Customer has to be first. And I think here's the easiest way to be empathetic about it.
Yeah.
Think about what type of marketing you react to, right? We don't ever think like this. We think of like, I'm just going to, send this email for the fourth time in 3 days. And hold on, we're all the same, right? There's no more like, I'm not B2B Dave. And then I go home and I'm like Dave the dad and B2C Dave. Like, no, I am just the same person in all walks of life now.
Right.
And that's because our experience as consumers, like we live in a world where I can order a Starbucks on my phone. I can order a car on my phone. I can order, 4 boxes of diapers and have them sent to my house tomorrow, and spend $300 in 2 minutes on my phone. And then like when we go to a B2B website, we want things to work the same, but they don't. And so that's to like really break into empathy. You actually don't have to think about what somebody else feels. Think about how you buy. And think about the last thing you bought and start thinking about how you can like reverse engineer your buying process to match what you would like.
Along with that, I would probably also add, just realize if I think of that and then also at the same time realize if I now start thinking I understand what a customer's thinking, then I have a bias, so I really got to understand them too and what they want. And part of what I think you'd probably share is how you spent, and I saw in the book, you spent time with the customer. To understand what it's like, what their experience is too. And as one, in the book, you talked about the power of plain text emails. And I wanted to ask you about it because why plain text emails? Can you share more on that?
Yes. So plain text emails, this is something that we first started doing about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And we did plain text emails because I think people just started to get banner blindness in email. And when I saw a highly designed, HTML big banner type of email, I was like, oh, this is a promotion from a company. Right. And we wanted all of our emails to look and feel like they were being sent from a friend. And so our whole email marketing strategy was like, all right, I'm going to a wedding with my family in New York this weekend. How would I email? I'm meeting my mom and my dad at the train tomorrow. How would I email my mom to like make sure we're going to be there on time? Subject line would be like tomorrow ? hey mom, just making sure we're still on for tomorrow.
Right.
We'll be there at 1:00. Or do you need anything from me? Like, why do our marketing emails have to be different than that? That's how we talk. That's how we would communicate. And so we started to think about, like, what if we just ditched the banners, ditched the design, and we started sending plain text emails that were always written like they were from a friend.
It was written as if it came from a real person, because it did.
Yeah.
Is what I'm hearing.
The thing that was so frustrating for me was, like, I got a bunch of responses for people like, oh, you're trying to be too sneaky. I don't like this. It felt like a real person. And I'm like, wait a second. Doesn't that just say, like, the state of the industry that we're in? Like,
yeah.
B2B marketing is not supposed to sound like a real person, right? Like, and I was like, no, that's exactly why we're doing it. Like, right. I want it to sound like a real person. And we even had an email that when you subscribe to our blog, you would get an email from me, and it would say, hey, like the welcome email you get after you sign up for something, right?
Yeah.
And it would say, hey, I just want to get, I just want to get this out of the way. My name is Dave, and I'm a VP of Marketing at Drift. Even though this is an automated email, I just wanted to let you know that I'm a real person and I'm really here, and I did actually really write this. And if you ever get spammed, or if you ever feel like your inbox is being disrespected, just email me directly. And that one email just, like, disarmed so many people, because it's like, look, I'm a real person. It was a picture. I had a video of me saying that, like, I'm a real person. Nobody's trying to, like, nobody's trying to get you upset. Nobody's trying to spam you. We're real. We're human. This is what we're doing. Like, that little piece of humanity in that email was such a disarming thing, and helped us really build a relationship with those early subscribers that we had.
The way I would describe it is you're treating people as people, not as leads, not as objects to convert. You're just relating to them as other people, and you're a person. And that, I think of when I first started 20 years ago, before it was called Business Development Reps, my VP of Sales said to me, just be people with people. And, I was 23, I was an intern, and I was trying to sound important because I was calling executives. And I think what when I embraced the fact that I was 23 and didn't have a lot of experience and just was who I was, there's that authenticity, and it just is. And it appeals.
I love that, because look,
yeah.
Then this is not to be disrespectful, right? Like, and I don't have the most experience in the world, but I've been doing what I've been doing now for, like, the last, 8-10 years. No 23-year-old BDR is going to know more about marketing than me.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not a knock. Like, you're just graduated college, you're in an entry-level sales job. And so if you try to reach out or call or LinkedIn, whatever, and you try to tell me that I could triple my conversion, like, whatever, right? I mean, there's no way. So I think how can you be human? How can you show who you really are? Hey, look, I'm at this company. I'm not a marketing person, but man, we have this product that has seen crazy results for so many customers just like you. And can I show you how it works, right? That little change makes such a difference.
You talked about the problem with business development reps is the process, not the people.
Okay. It's probably not a people problem. I think the process is more like most BDRs, this is not BDR, most any sales, marketing, whoever, the reason they do bad things is because they're not incentivized to do the good things, right? Which is, hey, Brian, you're BDR. This is 23-year-old Brian, you're BDR. Look, you got to make 200 calls today. That's all I care about. Make 200 calls. Well, of course, what are you going to do? You're going to make 200 calls.
Exactly.
Or, you got to send 300 emails today. Then you're going to send a bunch of automated, terrible emails. And you're going to be like, all right, it's 2:00. I'm going to go home. Yeah. And so I think if you have people that are incentivizing behavior like that, then of course that's going to be the result, right? Where if you said, look, you need to get 2 meetings a day. I don't care about how many activities, inputs, outputs, whatever. 2 meetings a day. There's 2 ways to go about get 2 meetings a day. You could send 300 emails and hope you get 2 emails. And how are you going to send 300 emails in 8 hours? Well, you got to do one. You got to blast people. Or you could reach out to 6 of the perfect dream customers, right? And you're going to book 2 meetings from it. And so that means you're going to spend half your day like doing research. What is the is it George Washington or Abe Lincoln quote like, talking about chopping down a tree?
If I had an hour to chop down a tree, I'd spend 50 minutes to sharpen my axe or something.
That's exactly right. So there's the same process for sales and marketing that I think we got to help bring back to the world.
Imagine, well, let's see, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon to your time. If we're having a coffee together,
Yeah.
and I said, Dave, how do I get into conversational marketing? Like, where can I start? What tips would you say for me to get started today?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a layup for me. Number one is go and buy the book, pre-order it, right?
Yep.
Because what we've taken everything we've learned over the last 2.5, 3 years and put it into this book to help you get started. And obviously, we have a ton of great content at Drift designed to help you do that. But I think let's assume that you're using you're signed up and you're going to use conversational marketing. For me, it would be pick off 1 to 2 things, 1 to 2 places that you can be successful right away. The biggest mistake I think people make is like, all right, I bought Drift. It's everywhere. Let's see what happens. We're like, no, what is your plan? They're like, oh, well, so here's a better example. Yeah. Most B2B websites have a contact us button or request a demo, right? Mm-hmm. And that pops out a 13, 15 field, 20 field form, whatever. You fill it out. I'd be like, oh, that's easy. We could replace that easily. So start with that one page, have a contained experiment on that one page, prove out success, and then start to expand. Then put it on the pricing page, then put it on the homepage, then putting on the blog. Like you got to have a motion that you're going to try to improve, or we think we could double the conversion rate on our homepage by doing this, right? So that's where I would start is pick kind of 1 or 2 familiar patterns, whether it's your blog, whether it's your, request a demo button, and start there and really learn. And you're going to learn a lot more than you thought you would. I think a lot of people like say, I only want to book sales demos. And then they start using Drift and they're like, I haven't booked a demo yet, but I've had 5 conversations this morning that blew my mind, and oh my God, I need to change my homepage. And that's the stuff that's like, you can't quantify until you actually get out there and have real conversations with people.
What's the best way for readers and listeners, 1, to get in touch with you, and 2, find out more about the book?
Yeah. So I'm Dave Gerhardt, one word, pretty much everywhere online, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, all that stuff. And then the easiest way to find out the book is if you go to drift.com/book, nice, simple, clean URL for the podcast crew out there. You can pre-order the book now. It'll be in stores everywhere. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, you name it, starting on January 30th. And you can go and get a copy for a nice discounted price at launch.
Fantastic. Well, for our listeners, we're going to put these links in the B2B lead blog for the show notes. And Dave, I just want to say thanks for joining us. Really enjoyed our conversation and look forward to talking more.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Brian. Thanks for doing it. I know we had a bunch of back and forth trying to get it done, so I'm glad to do it. And thanks for talking sales and marketing.
Thank you. Bye.
See ya.